Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So, devotees confirm that we are audible and visible, and the streaming has started.
We are audible
Okay.
and visible at YouTube.
That don't see, we're not seeing here.
Great. So happy to be back with all of you with Chaitanya Charitamrta. And here we are. We would be getting into chapter 2. We'll be completing chapter 1 and getting into chapter 2 of Chaitanya Charitamrta. And before we do that, let's all chant the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvidamscha Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we will cover the first chapter. There was just like 4 or 5 verses left in the last session, so we would complete this and then we will go to the second chapter of Madhya Lila. Raghunath Das Nityananda Pashagela Chiradodhi Mahotsava Tahani Karila.
So this verse, in these verses, we are discussing the various pastimes in Puri. At this time, Raghunath Das approached Sri Nityananda Prabhu and according to his order, prepared a feast and distributed prasadam composed of chipped rice and curd. So this is the Chura Dahi festival which is celebrated even now. And during this time, by the orders of Lord Nityananda, Raghunath Das Goswami arranged a huge feast of chipped rice, or we say chivda, and curd. So there were many preparations, and he ordered, because he had huge wealth, so he ordered, and cartloads of different ingredients were brought from various villages. People also, the news spread of this festival, so devotees also started pouring in from the various parts, and there were so many devotees that there was no space bank of Ganga. So some of them were standing, and some were in the the ground, and some were on the bank of Ganga. Some could not find space there, so they were standing in Ganga also and honoring prasadam. So it's a very amazing festival.
तांड्रा आज्ञलो न गेला प्रभुर चरणे प्रभु तांड्रे समर्पिला स्वरूपे स्थाने. Later, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami left home and took shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu at Jagannath Puri. At that time, the Lord received him and placed him under the care of Swarup Damodar for spiritual enlightenment. So Raghunath Das Goswami, who's famous for this particular festival of Chivda Dahi, so he joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later in Jagannath Puri, and as we read here that he was under the care of Swarup Damodar. So Swarup Damodar is also one of the very intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu gave the responsibility of Raghunath Das Goswami to him.
And Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, famous as 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan.
Brahmananda Bharati Raghu Chaila Charambar Ei Mata Lila Kaila Chayavat Sara.
Later, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped Brahmananda Bharati's habit of wearing deer skin. The Lord thus enjoyed his pastimes continuously for 6 years, experiencing varieties of transcendental bliss.
Eta kahila Madhya Lila Sutra Gana Shesha Dvadasha Vatsareda Shuna Vivarana. I have thus given a synopsis of the Madhya Lila. Now please hear the pastimes the Lord performed during the last 12 years. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, as we discussed in the last session also, that because he was growing old and he was not very confident that he would be there present writing the completing the entire Chaitanya Charitamrta. So in these first and second chapter, he is actually giving the synopsis of the entire Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. So for the Antya Lila, 12 chapters he has described, and now he is going to tell about the last 12 years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padayara Asha Chaitanya Charitamrta Kahe Krishna Dasa.
Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa, Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So we have read this verse quite a few times, similar verses in previous chapters also. So we see how the acharyas, they always follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas or previous teachers.
So getting into the second chapter of Madhya Lila, the ecstatic manifestations of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now for the last 12 chapters, for the last 12 years, his feelings of separation from Krishna intensifies, and constantly he is absorbed in this thought that where is Krishna and when will I meet? So as we remember that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combined incarnation of Krishna and Srimati Radharani. He is Krishna himself in the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani. So like when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, and that time Srimati Radharani was feeling this intense separation from Krishna, and she was constantly searching for Krishna. So last 12 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited that amazing Mahabhav of Srimati Radharani. So this chapter has total 95 verses, and it is divided into 3 sections. Section number 1 from verse 1 to 14, Lord Chaitanya's ecstatic symptoms of separation.
15 to 76, Lord Chaitanya's feelings of separation in the mood of Srimati Radharani.
And the final verse 77 to 95, Kaviraj Goswami glorifies Lord Chaitanya and explains the position of Chaitanya Charitamrta.
So verses 1 to 14, Lord Chaitanya's ecstatic symptoms of separation. So when a person is unimaginably attracted and in love with the Lord, and then Lord is not present, so what are the feelings of that separation from the Supreme Lord? So Lord Chaitanya manifested these symptoms, the symptoms that Srimati Radharani experienced when Krishna left Vrindavan.
Vichedismin prabhorantya Leela Sutranuvarnane Gaurasya Krishna Vicheda Pralapadi Anuvarnyate.
While relating in synopsis form the last division of the pastimes of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, in this chapter I shall describe the Lord's transcendental ecstasy, which appears like madness due to his separation from Krishna. So this particular few verses that we'll see here are exceptional, as is the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrta. These are exceptional exceptional description of the Lord, which possibly we cannot really understand these. It is not possible for us because we don't experience that love. So we cannot understand and experience this separation as well.
And
this is not
so
of this material world, actually. Yeah.
And this is so rare that apart from Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, not even any other incarnation have performed such
pastimes,
amazing, astounding pastimes.
Because the Lord has come in the mood of Srimati Radharani. She is considered to be the best devotee. She has the most intense love for Krishna, and therefore she also experienced the most intense separation from him, and that is what Lord was experiencing in this is what is described now, what we'll see, and of course in much more detail in the Madhya Lila.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya.
Sheshaye Rahila Prabhur Dvadashavatsara Krishna Ravi Yoga Spurti Haya Nirantara Shri Radhikara Chishta Yena Uddhav Darshane He Mata Darsha Prabhur Haya Ratri Dine. During his last 12 years, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always manifested all the symptoms of ecstasy in separation from Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's state of mind day and night was practically identical to Radharani's state of mind when Uddhav came to Vrindavan to see the gopis. So just to give us a little brief of what we would be seeing now, so it just resembles Radharani when she was left alone in Vrindavan when Krishna had left for Mathura, and then Krishna sends Uddhav to go and meet and see how his devotees are doing and pacify them. So when Uddhav comes and he sees Radharani's condition, so same bhav, same emotions, same ecstasy Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested in the last 12 years. Nirantarahaya Prabhur Viraha Unmada Brahmamaya Chishta Sada Pralapmaya Vada Roma Kupe Raktokama Danta Sabahale Share Anga China Haya Share Anga Pule. The Lord constantly exhibited a state of mind reflecting the madness of separation. All his activities were based on forgetfulness, and his talks were always based on madness. Blood flowed from all the pores of his body, and all his teeth were loosened. At one moment, his whole body became slender, and at another moment, his whole body became fat. So, of course, these are
we don't have any such experience. And so that's why we are reading about these symptoms here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord is experiencing these extreme. He's exhibiting these extreme symptoms like blood flowing from the pores of his body. Now we need to understand that the symptoms exhibited by the body are actually because of that state of mind. The Lord's mind was so intensely experiencing that separation from Krishna that his body would manifest such symptoms.
Gambhira bhitare ratre nahi nedra lava bhite mukha shira ghashe kshatahaya sabha. The small room beyond the corridor is called Gambhira. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to stay in that room, but he did not sleep for a moment. All night he used to grind his mouth and head on the wall, and his face sustained injuries all over. So now the description what we are reading, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that place is still there, that room is still there in Gambhira, which is being described here, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually residing. So it's a very tiny room where Mahaprabhu would stay, and generally he was like inside the room, and his servant would be outside, so that because Mahaprabhu was feeling a very, very extraordinarily unique type of ecstasy, which nobody had ever witnessed, which people might fake or try to fake. But in reality, for a person to feel so much of intense love and separation, that it is described that he was grind his mouth and like bang his head on the wall because he was not able to tolerate the separation from Krishna. All these things what we are reading, the blood flowing, the teeth loosening, the body become either very fat or very slender. So all these things are happening to his body because he was feeling so much of separation from Krishna. So in psychology, we read that sometimes when the mental conditions becomes very, very difficult, challenging, when somebody's mental health is like, when somebody is disturbed or he's very anxious, so that reflects in the bodily form also. So not that Mahaprabhu's was a mental condition that way, but then the whole point is that he was feeling so much of separation that he was agitated. And in that spiritual agitation, all these bodily transformations or ecstatic revelations were happening with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. तीन द्वारे कपाट प्रभु यायेना बाहिरे कबु सिंह द्वारे पड़े कबु सिंधु नीरे.
Although the three doors of the house were always closed, the Lord would nonetheless go out and sometimes would be found at the Jagannath temple before the gate known as Simhadwar, and sometimes the Lord would fall flat into the sea. So although the doors of his room were closed and there was no way that any person could have come out, but still somehow or other Lord will be found in front of Simhadwar, the eastern gate of Jagannath temple, or will be found in the sea.
Chataka parvata dekhi govardhana brahme Dhana chale artha nada kariya krandane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would also run very fast across the sand dunes, mistaking them for Govardhan. As he ran, he would wail and cry loudly. So when he would see from a distance these sand dunes around the beaches, and he would think that that is Govardhan. So Govardhan is not different from Krishna, and Govardhan is a place where Krishna always performs his own transcendental pastimes. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have such intense eagerness to meet that he would start running towards that. And in fact, ocean also, he would get confused that this is Yamuna. So this is how he was completely Vrindavan and Krishna conscious. So he is teaching us how to be Krishna conscious, or to what extent one person can go. Upavanodaya dekhi Vrindavan jnana Tahayai nache gaye shane murchayana.
Sometimes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mistook the small parks of the city for Vrindavan. Sometimes he would go there, dance and chant, sometimes fall unconscious in spiritual ecstasy. So sometimes what we see that when the parents are so much in love and attached to their child, that even when they look somebody else's child, they're remembering their own child, or they're seeing something else and they're remembering the different activities of their child. So here we see that Lord's 100% absorption is there in Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. And then when he saw some parks in Puri, he thought it's, city of Vrindavan. He thought it's Vrindavan, Vrindavan. The small parks reminded him of the different forests there. And he would go there, dance and chant, and sometimes fall unconscious.
Kahana shune ye bhavera vikara sei bhavahaya prabhu sharire prachara hastapade sandhi sabhavitasti pramane sandhi chari bhinnahaya charmarahe sthane. The extraordinary transformation of the body due to transcendental feelings would never have been possible for anyone but the Lord, in whose body all transformations were manifest. So it was so extraordinary description we would read in detail in Madhya Lila. The joint of his hands and legs would sometime become separated by 8 inches, and they remained connected only by the skin. So his hands and legs would become so disconnected and separated by 8 inches, which means it becomes elongated, and only the skin would be connecting the joint, the whole
limbs.
portion, the limbs. Yes.
So here it's mentioned that it is not possible for anyone else to exhibit such transformations but the Supreme Lord.
Hastapada shira sabha sharira bhitare pravishtaya kurma rupa dekhiye babure हे मत अद्भुत भाव शरीरे प्रकाशा मानते शून्यता वाक्ये हाहुताशा.
Sometimes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's hands, legs and head would all enter within his body, just like the withdrawn limbs of a tortoise. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to manifest wonderful ecstatic symptoms. His mind appeared vacant, and there were only hopelessness and disappointment in his words. So here we see that in the previous verse we saw sometimes the joints will become disengaged, and they will separate, and there will be only skin which is connecting the limbs. And here we see that all the limbs, the hands, the legs, the head, will go within the body, within the torso, just like a tortoise. So that was the situation. Sometimes it would manifest through his body, and his mind appeared vacant, and there was only hopelessness and disappointment. Why? Because Lord had left Vrindavan and there was no news that he was coming back, and he was not coming back, and wait till when, whether he would ever come back. So there was that hopelessness and disappointment. So what Srimati Radharani was experiencing being in Vrindavan in the absence of the Lord, same was experienced by Lord Chaitanya.
So this section is specifically talking about Lord Chaitanya's feelings. So far we discussed about his bodily transformation. Now what is going on in his mind, how he is feeling at the emotional level, how he is feeling the separation and mood of Srimati Radharani is described in verse number 15 to 76. Kaha mora pranatha vadana kaha karo kaha pana Vrajendra Nandana kahare kahiba ke ba jane mora dukha Vrajendra Nandana vinu fate mora buka. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to express his mind in this way. Where is the Lord of my life who's playing his flute? What shall I do now? Where should I go to find the son of Maharaj Nanda? To whom should I speak? Who can understand my disappointment? Without the son of Nanda Maharaj, my heart is broken. He mata vilap kare vivala antara
Rahira Nataka Shloka Pade Nirantara. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always expressed bewilderment and lamented in separation from Krishna. At such times, he used to recite these shlokas from Ramananda Rai's drama known as Jagannath Vallabh Natak.
So here are a series, some verses which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would recite. So Krishnadas Kaviraj has given those verse and then the explanation also. So here is the first verse expressing the pain of separation. Prema chedaru jo vagacchati harir nayam na cha prema va sthanam
avaiti napi madano janati no durbala anyo vedana chanya dukkham akhilam no jivanam vasharavam Dvitranaya eva dinani yauvanam idam ha videka gatihi.
Srimati Radharani used to lament. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thinking how Srimati Radharani used to lament, and that same thing he would repeat. Our Krishna does not realize what we have suffered from injuries inflicted in the course of loving affairs. We are actually misused by love because love does not know where to strike and where not to strike. Even Cupid does not know of our very much weakened condition. What should I tell anyone? No one can understand another's difficulty. Our life is actually not under our control, for youth will remain for 2 or 3 days and soon be finished. In this condition, O Creator, what will be our destination? So Srimati Radharani was so much in love with Krishna, and Krishna has gone from Vrindavan, and this is what his condition is, that what has happened to me, whom shall I blame or whom shall I discuss with? Nobody will understand my difficulty. My loved one has left me alone. What would I do? Why the Creator has created me, or what is my destiny? Eteke vilap kari vishadeshi gaura hari ughadiya dukhera kapata bhavera taranga bale nana rupe mana chale ara eka shloka kaila patha.
In this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lamented in a great ocean of sadness, and thus he opened the doors of his unhappiness. Forced by the waves of ecstasy, his mind wandered over the transcendental mellows, and he recited another verse as follows. So one thing that we need to understand, that the happiness and the sadness of the material world is different from the happiness and distress of the spiritual world. In the material world, yes, there is happiness, and then we think we are happy when we have the enjoyment of the senses, and we are sad when the senses senses are devoid of sense enjoyment. But in spiritual world, the happiness and sadness, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing here, are both happiness in the spiritual world. So both are happiness. When we meet with the Lord, there is great happiness. And when we are separated from the Lord and we are thinking of the Lord in separation, also there is great transcendental happiness. So that is the nature of the spiritual world, which is completely different from that of the material world.
Shri Krishna Rupadi Nishevanam Vina Vyarthani Mehani Akhilendriyani Alam Pashana Shushe Dhana Bharkani Aho Vibhrami Vatani Katam Hata Tripaha. So this is the second verse. The first one we read is the second verse. My dear friends, unless I serve the transcendental form, qualities and pastimes of Sri Krishna, all my days and all my senses will become entirely useless. Now I am uselessly bearing the burden of my senses, which are like stone blocks and dried wood. I do not know how long I will be able to continue without shame. So now here this verse, it is so amazing that the devotee, Srimati Radharani or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in mood of a devotee. So the devotee is experiencing what? that unless he or she is engaged in the service of Krishna, everything is useless. So here if we read the first line, it says, unless I serve the transcendental form, qualities and pastimes of Sri Krishna. So this is the mood of a devotee, that constantly looking for, eagerly searching for, how can I serve Krishna? And that is why when we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we are actually begging to Krishna that please engage me in your service. So that is why we gather every morning 2 hours. We are chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra so that Krishna gives us some service. So here the same thing is mentioned here, that unless I have some service, everything is useless. My senses are useless and everything is useless. Vamshi Ganamrita Dhama Lavanyamrit Janmasthana Yena Dekhe Se Chanda Vadana Senayane ki bakaja Padukatan Munde Vaja Senayana Rahe ki Karana.
Of what use are the eyes of one who does not see the face of Krishna, which resembles the moon and is the birthplace of all beauty and the reservoir of nectarian songs of his flute? Oh, let a thunderbolt strike his head. Why does he keep such eyes? So this verse being explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj, that verse of Srimati Radharani is being explained in much greater detail, that she's saying that for a devotee, what is the use of him keeping the eyes? So we saw in the previous verse, it's mentioned that how these senses of eyes and ears and the nose, they're all a burden, like stones. So sometimes we carry stones. It's such a burden if you want to walk with those stones. So the senses become a burden if they are not engaged in Krishna service. And here it is explained through the eyes. So if the eyes do not see the face of Krishna, and face of Krishna resembles the moon, and the birthplace of all beauty, and the reservoir of all nectarian songs of his flute, because from his lips, transcendental lips, he plays on his flute. So if the eyes do not see this, then what is the use of those eyes? And what is being stated here? So let that devotee has no desire to live. The devotee, because he's not able to see Krishna, he thinks that, okay, let me be struck by this thunderbolt. And then, what is the use of keeping such eyes, because I'm not able to see Krishna?
Heshuna mora hata vidhi bala mora vapu chitta mana sakala indriya gana Krishna vinu sakala nvivala.
Will you say it again?
So the first line is actually in another meter. He's saying, Sakhi heshuna mora hata vidhi bal Mora vapu chitta mana sakala indriya gana Krishna vinu sakala vifala. My dear friends, please hear me. I have lost all providential strength. Without Krishna, my body, consciousness and mind, as well as my senses are useless. So this is Srimati Radharani talking to her friends and telling that everything about me is useless. My body, my consciousness. Why it is useless? Because I'm not able to do anything. I'm just constantly thinking of Krishna, and Krishna is not here, and I'm not able to serve Krishna. So everything has become useless. Krishnera madhura vani amritera tarangini tara pravishnahi yeshavani kana kadi chidra sama jani hase shravana Tara Janma Haila Akarane.
Topics about Krishna are like waves of nectar. If such nectar does not enter one's ear, the ear is no better than the hole of a damaged conch shell. Such an ear is created for no purpose. Actually, there is so much instruction for us. All of us have eyes. We saw the purpose of the eyes. Now all of us have ears as well. And it's mentioned that the topics of Krishna are like waves of nectar. So when we stand on the shore of an ocean, we see that constantly there are waves. And that is what topics of Krishna are like. They're waves of nectar. And if they do not enter the ears, then it's like damaged conch shell. We can blow it, nothing comes out of it. So such an ear, what is the purpose of such a ear?
Krishnera Adharamrita Krishna Guna Charita Sudha Saraswada Vinindana Tara Swade Ye Na Jane Janamiya Na Mailene Serasana Bheka Jiva Sama. The nectar from the lips of Lord Krishna and his transcendental qualities and characteristics surpass the taste of the essence of all nectar, and there is no fault in tasting such nectar. If one does not taste it, he should die immediately after birth, and his tongue is to be considered no better than the tongue of a frog. So now here the example is given, the sense which is under discussion is the tongue, and the purpose of the tongue is tasting the nectar of Krishna's holy name, which means chanting Hare Krishna, glorifying Krishna, offering wonderful prayers to Krishna. So like that, engaging our tongue in the service of Krishna. And the example given is of the tongue of a frog. So why frog is so specifically mentioned is because for frog it is said that frog, when it croaks, and that is the time when the predator hears that, and they come and they capture frog and they eat frog. So frogs croaking become very dangerous for frog's survival. So similarly, if I'm not utilizing my tongue in the service of Krishna and chanting his holy names and discussing his transcendental topics, then my tongue is completely useless. And so strongly it is mentioned here that one should die immediately after taking birth. So if I do not glorify Krishna, there is no purpose in my living. Mrigamada nilotpala milane ye parimala ye hare tara garvamana hena Krishna anga gandha yara nahi se sambandha se na sabhastara rasthamana.
So after the eyes and the ear and the tongue, now we come to the nostrils. One's nostrils are no better than the bellows of a blacksmith if one has not smelled the fragrance of Krishna's body, which is like the aroma of musk combined with that of the bluish lotus flower. Indeed, such combinations are actually defeated by the aroma of Krishna's body. So now this visual may be a little difficult for us to see, but I remember seeing it. Blacksmiths, they will be sitting on the roadside and they'll have a leather bag and they will be pushing it up and down and it'll be heaving. The air will go in and then they'll push the air into a furnace where they will be, putting some iron and they will take it out, hammer it, and then they want to heat it again. So then again they will push that bellow so that the air pushes in. So here, our nostrils are compared to the bellows of a blacksmith. If our nose has not smelled the fragrance of Krishna's body, and Krishna's body fragrance has been described so beautifully, that musk, which comes from musk deer, the musk and the bluish lotus flower. So that fragrance of bluish lotus flower mixed with musk is the fragrance of Lord's form. So nowadays we neither have original musk to smell, nor I don't remember seeing bluish lotus flower. I don't know. And imagine, so where we don't see these things, where is the question of smelling them? And it's mentioned that indeed such combinations are actually defeated by the aroma of Krishna's body. So Krishna's fragrance, Krishna has natural fragrance, and that fragrance is actually defeated by this combination also. Krishna Kara Pada Tala Koti Chandra Shushitala Tara Sparsha Yena Sparsha Mani Tara Sparsha Nahi Yara Seya Ukachara Khara Seva Pulava Samajani. The palms of Krishna's hands and the soles of his feet are so cool and pleasant that they can be compared only to the light of millions of moons. One who has touched such hands and feet has indeed tasted the effects of touchstone. If one has not touched them,
his life is spoiled and his body is like iron. So again, now the fifth sense, the perfection of the skin is to touch Krishna's, to feel Krishna, to touch Krishna. So the palm and the sole of Krishna's feet are said that it is so cold. It's so pleasantly cold. It's not like chilled cold.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's so cool that it is compared to lights of millions of moons.
So those of them in North India may be finding difficult, no, to understand. Cool, no. So also this is amazing, because when I was reading this verse, it's so interesting that you touch plastic, there is a different feel. You touch metal, there is a different feel. You touch marble, there is a different feel. You touch different types of stone. Sandstone is different. Kota stone is different. You walk on sand, it's different. You walk on soft, silky clay is different. Like in Vrindavan, the certain parts of Govardhan Parikrama, the soil is so soft like powder. It's so soft to walk on. So there are different feelings which one gets by touching these different objects. And here it's mentioned how one feels when one actually has the great fortune of touching Lord's form, his feet or his hands.
Kariyeta vilapana Prabhu Shachinandana Ugadiya hridayera shoka Dayanera vedishade hridayera avasade Punarapi pade eka shloka. Lamenting in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened the doors of grief within his heart. Ughadiya hridayera shok. So his heart is full of grief and he is lamenting and he is discussing. And what he's also doing is morose, humble and disappointed. He recited a verse again and again with a despondent heart. Yada yato daivan madhuripur asau lochan patham Tadasmakam cheto madan hatakena hritam abhut Punaryasmin esha shanam api drisho re padavim Vidhasyamastasmin akhila ghatika ratna kachitaha.
If by chance the transcendental form of Krishna comes before my path of vision, my heart, injured from being beaten, will be stolen away by Cupid, happiness personified. Because I could not see the beautiful form of Krishna to my heart's content. When I again see his form, I shall decorate the phases of time with many jewels. So here we see that intense desire to see Krishna. And this is so interesting that Srimati Radharani is saying that if I were to see Krishna again, then I'll decorate the phases of time with many jewels. Right? So even the time, becomes blessed.
Punayadi konakshana karaya Krishna darshana tabise ghati kshana pala Diya malya chandana nana ratna abharana alankrita kari musakala. So now this third verse is expressing about the desire to see Krishna. So what is happening? If by chance such a moment comes when I can once again see Krishna, then I shall worship those seconds, moments and hours with flowers, garlands and pulp of sandalwood and decorate them with all kinds of jewels and ornaments. Kshane baya hoila mana jana tangre puche amina Chaitanya Swapna praya ki dekhinu ki baami talapinu tomara ki chushuni chadenya.
In an instant, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gained external consciousness and saw two persons before him. Questioning them, asked, "Am I conscious? What dreams have I been seeing? What craziness have I spoken? Have you heard some expressions of humility?" So the Lord would, when he would faint in ecstasy, that's the time when we would actually have darshan of the Lord. And when he would regain external consciousness, so then he would ask these questions.
Puna kahe haya haya, shuna swarup Rama Raya, ei mora hridaya nishchaya. Shunikara vichara haya nayaka sara, eta bali shloka ucharaya. So the two of the most intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda. So when he was experiencing such ecstasy, these two devotees were his constant companions. And when he would recite a verse, or when, like in the previous verse, he saw he gained external consciousness and he was a little embarrassed and he started asking, what was I speaking and was I humble enough? So such things, he would share his mind with these two devotees. So here it is mentioned, again he addressed Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda, speaking despondently. Alas, my friends, you can now know the certainty within my heart, and after knowing my heart, you should judge whether I am correct or not. You can speak of this properly. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then began to chant another verse. Kai avrahi ampe mamam na hi hoi manushe loe jai hoi kassa virahe hontam mi ko jia. Love of Godhead, devoid of cheating propensities, is not possible within this material world. If there is such a love, there cannot be separation, for if there is separation, how can one live?
So this is the definition of the pure love of Krishna, pure Krishna Prem. So it is mentioned here that love of Krishna devoid of cheating propensities. So there is, it is completely devoid. We don't want to cheat ourselves when we are aspiring for pure devotional service. We don't want to engage in sense gratification, because the senses are meant for Krishna's pleasure. So that is how we understand what is pure love of God. So it is what he is describing here, Lord is describing here, that love of God, devoid of cheating propensity, is not possible within this material world. And if such love exists, there cannot be any separation, because such a devotee is always with Krishna. And if that devotee experiences separation, how can he survive? It is not possible for such a person to survive. Akaitava Krishna prema yena jambu nanda hema sei prema niloke nahaya yadi haya tara yoga nahaya tabe viyoga viyoga haila kaihanaya. Pure love for Krishna, just like gold from the Jambu river, does not exist in human society. If it existed, there could not be separation. If separation were there, one could not live. So he is talking about this rarity of pure love for Krishna and how it cannot exist, because if I have pure love for Krishna, how am I living in separation from Krishna then? So if separation is there, then how do I have pure love? If separation were there, one could not live. So if I'm having pure love and Krishna is not there with me, then I must not live. Then I must not live, yeah. And that is exactly what was Lord's situation. He was finding it difficult to exist. Hita kahi shachi suta shloka pade adbhuta shune dunhe ek manahana apana hridaya kaja kahi te vasiya laja tabu kahi laja bija khana. Thus speaking, the son of Srimati Sachimata recited another wonderful verse, and Ramananda Rai and Sarup Damodar heard this verse with rapt attention. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I feel shameful to disclose the activities of my heart. Nonetheless, I shall be done with all formalities and speak from the heart. Please hear. So here we see another beautiful quality of a devotee, that a devotee does not expose his intimate feelings for the Lord. He does not make a show of it. And here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that he's feeling ashamed to disclose the activities of his heart, but he's doing nonetheless because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sharing this with his most intimate and closest of devotees, Ramananda Rai and Saru Damodar.
न प्रेम गन्धोऽस्ति दरापि मे हरौ कृन्दामि सौभाग्यभरं प्रकाशितुं वंशी विलासि आनन्दलोकनं विना बिभ्रमि यत् प्राणपतङ्गकान्वृता. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "My dear friends, I have not the slightest tinge of love of Godhead within my heart. When you see me crying in separation, I am just falsely exhibiting a demonstration of my great fortune. Indeed, not seeing the beautiful face of Krishna playing his flute, I continue to live my life like an insect without purpose." So this is the 5th verse which talks about the nature of Krishna Prem. So in this Krishna Prem, a person becomes so naturally humble. So out of humility, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that whatever you are seeing is not true. I do not have any love for Krishna. So when a person acquires that love for Krishna, he does not say, I have love for Krishna. He does not feel I have enough. When a person is actually pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, he does not think that he is devotee. He feels that he is such an offender and he does not have any devotional quality. So that is the top level of humility, because that thing arises from his devotion. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, I continue to live my life like an insect without purpose. So just like an insect. Now if we ask an insect, what is your goal of life? What is the purpose of life? So there is no purpose of life. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that I am just like that. So he is teaching us how when one manifests the real Krishna Prem, then what is the nature of that? दूरे शुद्ध प्रेम गंधा कपट प्रेमेर बंधा सेह मोर नाही कृष्ण पाया तबे ये करी क्रंदन स्वसौभाग्य प्रकायापन करी इह जानिह निश्चया.
Actually, my love for Krishna is far, far away. Whatever I do is actually an exhibition of pseudo love of Godhead. When you see me cry, I'm simply falsely demonstrating my great fortune. Please try to understand this beyond a doubt. So Lord is continuing to speak in this way. That actually I don't have love for Krishna. It's really far, far. Dure, Shuddha Prema Gandha. It is like just so far away from me. And whatever I am kapat, whatever prema or whatever love I am exhibiting is actually kapat. It is not real. It is pseudo. So we see that how, as Sugita was explaining, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually demonstrating this naturally, that one who has pure love for Krishna, this is how he feels that no, I don't have love for God. This is just a show. So it comes very naturally to them. It's not some external show. So either sometimes people say, I have great love, or sometimes people say, I don't have any love. But here in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's case, it is just naturally coming from his heart.
Krishna prema sunirmala yena shuddha ganga jala sei prema amritera sindhu निर्मल से अनुरागे नालौकाय अन्य दागे शुक्ल वस्त्र यैचे नास्ति बिंदु. Love for Lord Krishna is very pure, just like the waters of the Ganges. That love is an ocean of nectar. That pure attachment to Krishna does not conceal any spot, which would appear just like a spot of ink on a white cloth. हे माता दीने दीने स्वरूप रामानंद साने निज भाव करे ना विदिता बाह्य विष ज्वाला हया भीतरे आनंद माया कृष्ण प्रेमाद्भुत चरिता.
In this way, Lord Chaitanya used to revel in ecstasy day after day and exhibit these ecstasies before Swarup and Ramananda Rai. Externally, there appeared severe tribulations, as if he was suffering from poisonous effects, but internally, he was experiencing bliss. This is characteristic of transcendental love of Krishna. So here we understand this unique quality of feeling of separation from the Lord. So externally, Lord appeared that he was suffering from some poisonous effects. He was experiencing these tribulations, but internally he was experiencing bliss. So this is the nature. When we meet the Lord, when the devotee meets the Lord, he experiences great happiness and bliss. And when the Lord is not there, he experiences great bliss in separation from the Supreme Lord.
ये काले देखे जगन्नाथ श्री राम सुभद्र साथ तबे जाने आई लामा कुरुक्षेत्र सफलाईला जीवना देखिलु पद्मलोचना जुड़ाईला तनु मन नेत्र. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see Jagannath along with Baladev and Subhadra, he would immediately think that he had reached Kurukshetra, where all of them had come. He would think that his life was successful because he had seen the lotus-eyed one, whom, if seen, pacifies the body, mind, and eyes. Garudera sannidhane rahi kare darshane se anande rakhi kahi babale. Garuda stambera tale ache ka nimna khale se khala barila ashru jale.
Staying near the Garuda Stamba, the Lord would look upon Lord Jagannath. What can be said about the strength of that love? On the ground beneath the column of the Garuda Stamba was a deep ditch, and that ditch was filled with the waters of his tear. So here we see, so those of us who have visited Jagannath Puri temple, we would remember where this Garuda Stamba is. So after the Bhog Mandap, there is this Garuda Stamba, and from that Garuda Stamba there are 1-2 halls, and then is the altar. So from there we can see Subhadra Maharani and we can see partially Jagannath. So we have to turn on the left side of the Garuda Stamba and we can see Jagannath and Subhadra, and then we have to go on the right side of Garuda Stamba and we can see Baladev and Subhadra Maharani. So that is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would stand and he would have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And so many tears would come that there was a ditch there and that would get filled up with his tears.
ताहा होइते घरे आसी मंदिरा ऊपर वासी नखे करे पृथ्वी लिखाना हा कहाँ वृंदावन कहाँ गोपेंद्र नंदना कहाँ से वंशी वदना. When coming from the Jagannath temple to return to his house, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sit on the ground and mark it with his nails. At such times, he would be greatly morose and would cry, Alas! Ha kaha Vrindavana? Kaha Gopendra Nandana? Kaha sei Vamshi Vadana? Where is Vrindavan? Where is Krishna, the son of the king of the cowherd men? Where is that person who plays the flute? So till the time he was in Jagannath temple, he would be completely satisfied because Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra were there in front of him, and yet he would be crying. So in ecstasy, he would cry at his darshan, and when he would return back, immediately he would start thinking, where is Vrindavan? Where is Krishna? Kaha se tribhanga thama, kaha se venu gana, kaha se yamuna pulina, kaha se rasa vilasa, kaha nritya gita hasa, kaha Prabhu Madana Mohana.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to lament by saying, where is Sri Krishna, whose form is curved in 3 places, Tribhanga? So if we see the Lord, he stands, and if you see the form, he's bent in 3 places. Where is the sweet song of his flute? And where is the bank of Yamuna? Where is the rasa dance? Where is that dancing and singing and laughing? Where is my Lord Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid? So these verses, these few verses that we have been discussing, are all describing the nature of Krishna Prem. Utila nana bhava vega mane haila uda vega shana matra nare gonaite prabala virana nale dharya ilatale nana shloka lagila padite.
In this way, various ecstatic emotions evolved, and the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu filled with anxiety. He could not escape even for a moment. In this way, because of fierce feeling of separation, his patience began to totter and he began to recite various verses.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
So with this, we have come to an end of today's session. We discussed 5 very important verses today. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling and what is the essence of each of these verses. So we want you to write it down in the comment section on our YouTube video. We want you to write it down out of these 5 verses, which is the one which has appealed to you the most and why. So which one you think yes and why? So you'll be looking forward for your responses, your comments, and looking forward to see all of you next week for the next session where we will continue from verse number 58. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.